Marinero, the Sick Podcast. What a pleasure. What an honor. It's not every day that you get to talk to the number one hockey agent in the world, and I would say probably a top 10 agent, any sport in the world. He is an unbelievable success story. He is from La Belle Province. He is in Los Angeles right now. Pat Brisson, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thanks for the intro. It's a little too much, but I appreciate it.
It is what it is. It's much deserved, but what a career, which started with playing hockey as a young boy, of course, in the province of Quebec, which you make your way to the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, and you're playing for the juniors, I believe, the Verdun juniors, with a certain Pat Lafontaine, huh? That must have been fun.
Yeah, it was special to play with Pat. I mean, that's the year where the rivalry between Laval and Verdun, the Lafontaine versus Lemieux, it was special. The two guys going head to head, but I think Pat had 234 points that year, and Mario was right around that as well. So it was a special and unique experience. And on that team with Gerard Gallant, who's a really good coach in the NHL, was going to get a job soon, and many great players. So it's a great experience.
Pat, I love talking about greatness. You have to tell me a LaFontaine story. You have to tell me a Lemieux story.
Well, LaFontaine, my God, he took, story. I mean, he was a quality guy, first of all. He was such a teammate. For me, growing up Valley Field, I didn't speak English much back then. And going to Verdun, I was exposed to a lot right away, going to the big city and seeing this young superstar coming from the U.S. and people were talking about him a lot, and just the way he took over our league, but how good of a person he was. He was very generous to all of us because he was getting all the attention. I mean, he was a Journal de Montréal, Mac La Chapelle, all of that. They were all around him. But the thing, if I have a story, I mean, it's just the way. Actually, I do have a quick story. I remember sitting with him. I've said that story before, but I was sitting with them in Verdun we're watching an NHL club practicing, because sometimes they used to come and practice at the Verdun Arena, and while they're playing at the Old Forum. And so we're sitting, he and I, up in the stands, and it was towards the end of the season, and Pat knew he was going to be a high pick in the NHL, and he says, I can't wait. He sat next to me, he says, I can't wait to be in the NHL. That's my goal in the next few years. And I was at a point where my career, where I knew I was a good player, but I paused when he said that. And I said, you know what? I'm not so sure if I'm going to be there one day, but I'm going to be something in hockey. And I do remember that conversation together where we're sitting. It's unbelievable. That's probably 40 years ago. I was something close to that. But no, he was he was a fantastic guy. And Mario Lemieux, I mean, we became close friends. I mean, Mario was, I don't have to say anything about him as a player, and also the impact he had on all of us in the Quebec League. And personally, he had a huge impact for me, because when I started in the business with Luc Robitaille, Mario, in the early days of my career, Mario was the one that also believed in me. And doing and putting together marketing deals, working with Tom and Steve Rich. Tom was a famous baseball agent, and Steve, his nephew, was starting the business too, had a great business mind. But Mario believed in me. He's the one that introduced me to the Rich family, Tom and Steve, and gave me an opportunity to explore marketing deals for him. And that was special, because he was arguably the best player. Him and Wayne were the best players at that time, and brands were coming hard at Mario, and he had me, involved in it at a young age. So we became very, very close friends over the years, and obviously when the Pittsburgh got the lucky ball with Sid, and the year before Gino Malkin, who were both clients. I mean, our relationship became closer and closer because we ended up spending more time together. So. Well, there's so many stories, so many great memories, and more to come, hopefully,
You went on from the Verdun Juniors to the Voltigeurs de Drummondville, and then to the to Hull, of course.
Yeah.
And there you played with Luc Robitaille. You also played with Guy Rouleau. Guy Rouleau, 191 points. Can you tell me why he never played in the National Hockey League? Was it his size?
I still scratch my head when we talk about Guy Rouleau. Guy Rouleau, the three best junior players I've ever played with or against are LaFontaine, Mario, obviously, and Guy Rouleau. Guy Rouleau and Luc Robitaille would tell you the same thing, too. Guy Rouleau is a fantastic athlete and an amazing hockey player, tremendous hockey sense, everything. Yes, he was 5'9", 175 pounds. I don't know if it's timing. I don't know. It was somehow, and I'm not pointing fingers, mishandled at one point. This guy should have had a 15-year career in the NHL. He was arguably in today's game, Guy Rouleau, I mean, again, I can't say enough things. The stuff this guy was doing on the ice was so special. But I don't have the answer why, to be honest with you.
Even your dog is upset.
Yeah, my dog, he reacts to that when he hears Guy Rouleau. And when he feels that I'm a little bit upset or emotional about something, like he was a special player. Guys, he used to, during practices, we used to practice plays together, Guy, Luc, and I. And I remember Guy even spending time with Luc and Luc was arguably one of the best shooters in the game. And he spent time with Luc about his wrist shot and stuff like that. And Luc was listening to Guy. Luc would be the first one to talk about Guy that way.
I'm Marinaro. He is Pat Brisson, and this show is brought to you by Essentia, the world's only natural memory foam mattress. Go to myessentia.com/sickpod and see why Essentia is the mattress of choice for many athletes, including over 25% of professional hockey players. Use code SICKPOD for a free pillow with your purchase. Essentia, beyond organic sleep. I know we all know the importance of sleep. Speaking of which, I believe you're on Essentia, are you not?
Well, of course. I've been friends with Jack and Essentia for 10, 12 years now. I've been using only their mattresses. Actually, I didn't even know you were sponsored by. You're involved with Essentia. It's a great mattress. I highly recommend it to all our players. All our beds in our houses are Essentia. It's organic. It's great. Recovery is important. Sleep is key to success. For athletes, non-athletes. So let's put it this way: we spend a third of our lives in our bed, so it's important to find the right mattress.
You're right about that. Look, you mentioned Mario Lemieux and how instrumental he was for your career as a hockey agent, but the Gretzky trade also was a turning point in your life, right?
Well, the Gretzky trade, I came here in LA. October 87, and Gretzky got traded here 88, August 88, August 9th. It was a year after I had already been here, and hockey was really at the infant stage, if you want to say it this way, regarding youth hockey. There are no rinks around. There were no youth hockey was like even adult hockey. So I'd spent a year here, and when Wayne got traded here, that's when the youth hockey boom, adult hockey, guys, there used to be a league of 6 teams, and it went from 6 to 20. And then actors, actresses, musicians, producers, all of a sudden, they start getting really involved with hockey and on the ice, off the ice. It was an amazing era for hockey in Southern California.
The salary cap, I want to talk to you about it. I would imagine in an ideal world for an agent such as yourself, you'd rather not have a cap. Would that be accurate?
Absolutely. And I think it would create, it's interesting. And we talk about a parity, but it would create amazing competition still if we have a non-cap system. And I know it's almost a non-starter. We have an extension, a 4-year extension to CBA. We have 45 years left or 6 years left already. But teams in big markets, even, they'd be able to keep, some of their stars, longer players that they drafted. And, but anyway, I'd rather operate in an on-cap system. Absolutely.
A shout out to Excellent Photos, centrally located close to downtown shopping and universities. Ships to all of Canada professional staff at the store and online to help you choose the gear that you really need. Marinaro and Pat Brisson. It's the Sick Podcast. Speaking of the salary cap, what was it? I think 3.5 years ago, one of your clients, Matt Duchesne, was involved in a trade from Colorado to Ottawa, which ended up being a 3-team deal with Nashville also involved.
Yeah.
You helped broker that deal, did you not? Can you take me through it?
Yeah, it took longer than I expected. At first, when we had asked for Joe Sakic to see if he wanted to move Matty right at the trade deadline of the prior year, and he wasn't successful. Then at the draft, I thought it was going to occur then. Remember, Ottawa was in the mix, and so is Nashville. We all knew that Matt had a penchant, so to speak, for Nashville. It's a place that he wanted to go play. And then the start of the season occurred, and he wasn't traded by then. So I had a lot of conversations with Joe Sakic at the time on a day-to-day basis, and we had conference calls at one point between us and Ottawa and in Nashville. Nashville couldn't pull the trigger on a direct trade Duchesne with Colorado. So Ottawa became the mix, and at the time when Matty went to Ottawa had a good team. They still had a lot of good players. Stone was there, Carlson, and all that, and so we did it. There were a chance at that point that he was going to sign an extension in Ottawa, but then things went in a different direction. They started moving players and all that, and now that's why Ottawa's got so many young prospects and high-end prospects, and that's what Pierre Dorion had decided to. After he saw that Duchesne was going to sign an extension in Stone, he decided to rebuild, and that's why he's got all these picks and these high-end players.
Pat, one of the things that made major headlines this year, probably you would have wished that it didn't, was the Tony DeAngelo situation. I want to talk about it. It's much reported that he was involved in an altercation with one of his teammates. Yeah. New York Rangers basically told him to go home at that point. Why didn't a deal take place? Strictly salary cap reasons, or how concerned are you that this player now, who's one of your clients, like I said, comes with a label that he's a problem player, whether he is or he isn't?
Well, first of all, Tony's a great person. He's a hell of a
I never met a Tony I didn't like.
Yeah, he's a good guy. He's a good person. He's gone through a lot this year. I mean, I like players with characters. Altercations between teammates will happen in a competitive environments, and a lot of times we don't hear about it unless the media they get a hold of it. The situation with Tony too, he was perhaps a little bit too active with his social media account during the elections, and he probably rubbed people the wrong way. Something that Sammy could probably teach him there too at social media. So, but Tony learned his lesson a little bit that way. Speaks from the heart, and I think it was an accumulation of a few things. And when he was waived, certain bloggers unfairly, unfounded, wrote certain stories that did not make sense, but it kind of put a lot of a spin to who he was really as a person. And I would say I did have a lot of interest in teams who were interested in Tony, but at that point they backed out. They were nervous. Short season, he's at 4.8 AAV. It took a lot of time, to be honest with you. I spent a lot of time on this file, and at the trade deadline, we almost had a couple deals, but he would have had to terminate his contract. So, long story short, we'll see what's going to happen this summer. Chris Drury is the president GM now. We're obviously anticipating he's probably going to get bought out, but we're ready for him to find a new home this summer. I'm very optimistic that he'll have a place to play, in a good place, and a good opportunity this summer.
So if you want to place your bets on MyBookie, go to mybookie.ag/the Sick Podcast and use code SickPicks for a 50% deposit bonus. Bet, win, get paid. And you can probably bet $1 or $2 that Tony DeAngelo is going to find himself a team in the offseason. All right. So you talked about social media. I would imagine, Pat, you correct me if I'm wrong, that before the season starts, you have a refresher with your clients, with your players, to talk to them about using social media responsibly. Maybe less is more and stuff like that. But can you talk to me about that?
Yeah, we're fortunate at CAA because we deal with musicians, actors, actresses, like I said, and producers and TV personalities, and so we as a group, social media doesn't affect only athletes; it affects the world. So we have internal sessions with our people and about how to manage social media and how to take advantage of social media if you want to build a brand and so on and so forth. So we're very active with our players in giving him all the hopefully the one-on-one lessons how to manage social media. Now, some players are not interested in social media yet, or they're just at the surface a little bit, and we respect that as well. Our culture in hockey, it's different than basketball and some other sports. Sometimes we like to push them a little bit. We'd like players to want to build their brands a little bit more, be more willing, because the traditional marketing deals today, used to be, television and prints, point of sales and pictures, so on and so forth. Now it's more social media. So if you want marketing deals, you got to be active. You got to be more colorful, at least. But at the same time, it comes with a price. You got to be active. You got to post rights. You got to know what you want to be perceived as an athlete or as a personality. So we're heavily vested in that. We have a full marketing management maintenance group, and we spend a lot of time on that on a day-to-day basis with our players.
Pat, I've been doing what I do for about 20 years, so I don't let too much bother me because obviously, you want to distance yourself. But Brandon Dubinsky said something that bothered me, and I'm going to tell you why. He has sounded off on your client, Sidney Crosby, on more than one occasion over his career. But just recently, he did so again, and it bothers me because for me, Sidney Crosby is everything that you can want an athlete to be. He's a guy who entered the league with the weight of the world on his shoulders. He's a guy who responded, pressure moments, clutch over and over again. He's a 3-time Stanley Cup champion. He's an MVP. He's a gold medal winner. He's Mr. Sudden Death in the Olympics and the golden goal. And throughout all of this, never a bad story, never a situation with Sidney Crosby off ice, in the bar, at the club, this, that, nothing.
Yeah.
It bothered me that he sounded off like that. As his agent and his friend, how much did it bother you? And does it bother you that sometimes you can actually voice those frustrations or you choose not to?
Well, it bothers me from a personal standpoint if I take it personally, but I don't know Brendan much. I think he wants to also create a little bit of tension, perhaps between Sid and him, and Sid and the team, or he's looking maybe for attention at the same time. Because I can't really express, I don't know him much as a person, but anyone who would take liberty to attack Sidney, I mean, I think they have to think about it twice. I mean, if it's in a competitive environment, I can understand on the ice, chirping guys, going hard, try to get players off their games. And there was a time maybe early on in his career, Sidney was taken off his game a little bit, but I tell you what, the last 6 to 7 years, there's no way. I mean, you can say whatever you want. He's so focused. He's always been focused and determined. And you were talking about an example. He's an impeccable example as an athlete. But the people that know this guy off the ice, it's even greater. He's just an amazing person, and the way what he's done for a game as an ambassador, and for all the players that are younger than him and looking up to him about his work ethic, his consistency, because the hardest thing for an athlete is to be consistent. A talented person is one thing, but showing to work every night and going to practice like your job depends on it every day, and be consistent. It's one of the big, I think, the nicest quality that he has. So I don't know, for Dubinsky to say what he says, I don't want to take it personal, but I guess he's trying to throw him off his game.
I think I interviewed Sid once in my life. He was 16 years old. He was playing in Rimouski, and I was just blown away with his maturity. And I went to watch him in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League as well. And for me, he is one of the athletes that I most respect. And, I got 2 boys at home, and I tell them, just take a look at Sidney Crosby, and, you're not going to be that kind of athlete, probably not, because he is extra special, but try and be that kind of person. Anyway, so I'm a big fan, needless to say. I'll admit it. I really am. with Pat Brisson, number one hockey agent in the world, one of the top agents in all of sport. I'm in Montreal, so Canadiens fans are going to be watching this for sure. And last offseason, the Montreal Canadiens signed your client, Tyler Toffoli, as an unrestricted free agent, 4 years, 4.25 per year, if memory serves me well. This season, he leads the team in goals with 28, and he leads them in points with 44. I've often wondered what a general manager tells a player, what a general manager tells his agent when free agency comes around. Can you let me in on what Marc Bergevin said to Tyler Toffoli to entice him to sign with the Montreal Canadiens?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about timing here. I mean, timing was perfect for Montreal with Tyler, because when LA decided to move to trade Tyler to Vancouver, I think it was second round pick in Madden. At that point, they decided to go in a different direction. So, but he did very well in Vancouver. He was well liked by the organization. He was well liked by his teammates. I mean, Tyler Toffoli is loved by his teammate. The guy who won the Stanley Cup, is a great teammate guy. He's a great teammate and a great player, amazing hockey sense. And so Vancouver had interest, but then the pandemic hit, and they had the different priorities perhaps, and the cash came a little bit short. So they were buying time a bit. We were having ongoing discussions. And then other teams then free agency hit, and then the teams start showing interest. But mind you, the cap was going to be flat. In a different market, Tyler Toffoli would have gotten probably, I would say, 6 to 8 offers in the mid fives. That's what I had anticipated for about 5 or 6 years. But then the market dried out, and we then had to play with mirrors, so to speak. And Montreal started showing interest. And all due respect to Montreal, Mark was trying to get us our money. We were looking in the fives, and he was trying to find, but Montreal was at the cap. They didn't have any cap space. I remember, I think his offer was lower than 4 because he didn't have 4.25, and we didn't want 4.25. We wanted to be in the fives, or at 5, and we could have waited a longer perhaps, and Mark would have been able to create a little space and give him his $5 million a year, which he deserved, by the way. He should be even at $6 million or north of that based on what he's played, how he's played this year. But it came at a time where there would be, an element of risks at that point. What do you do? And then Montreal fulfills that spot, and then there's no $4 million anymore. And Vancouver didn't have the money at the time. Maybe they fulfill that spot. And then what do? We had other teams interested. And it's a musical chair. You need to have a lot of experience when you enter free agency. You have to understand the market, and you have to understand when it's time to pull a trigger. And that's what happened with Montreal.
You can go to sportbuffshop.com for all of your officially licensed sports apparel and more. Use code SICK15 for 15% off on all of their items, and that would include a Montreal Canadiens hoodie. Speaking of the Canadiens, another very popular player in town, but I want to take you back to the 2019 NHL Amateur Draft. Cole Caufield, the Montreal Canadiens had the 15th pick in the draft. Before the draft, Marc Bergevin and his staffers want to take Cole Caufield out to supper. This has been talked about in Montreal, of course, because it's on video. Marc Bergevin tells you he wants to take Cole Caufield out to supper. You find out he does. You say what? That was in Buffalo at the combine. I remember the conversation. I remember we were there with the staff. Our staff, the CA staff, was there. Montreal, different teams. I don't know if I asked them to pick up the bill. I can refresh your memory if you want, because
yeah.
Okay, it's on video, and Marc Bergevin, because it was on Habs TV and they showed it, and Marc Bergevin said a story where he said to you that he was going to bring Caufield to supper, and you said, "Pourquoi? Tu pick 15. Il va aller dans le top 10." Like, you're wasting your time, right?
Yes. That's true. There was another element to that dinner, but yeah, true. He said, "Yes, I'd like to." I said, Burge. I said, "He's going to be gone 8 to 10. No, he doesn't pass 10, so you're wasting your time." But he did say, he said, "We'll never know. I may move up." And I may move up in the draft, and he's high on our list. I said, "Well, cool. I mean, it's fine, But I did remember that's true. That's the part because I thought he was going to go 8 to 10 max, no later. But then Mark said he can. I might move up in the draft. We like him that much.
So Cole Caufield wins the Hobey Baker. Of course, what a season he had for Wisconsin. He signs an entry-level deal with the Montreal Canadiens. They finally call him up to play in a big game versus Calgary. And he's got some scoring chances in game 1, some scoring chances in game 2, some scoring chances in game 3. And in his 4th and 5th NHL game, Pat Brisson, watch this. Cole Caufield.
Started this overtime. He has not been able to get off.
Petrie to Caufield scores! Cole Caufield, his first NHL goal!
Tardé à regagner le banc des signes. Et voilà Jeff Petrie en territoire de Toronto. Petrie passe à Caufield, une fête, le tir et le but! La parole, Cole Caufield!
The Montreal Canadiens made the playoffs, right, for several reasons. But those 2 goals are 2 big reasons why they make the playoffs. When you see that and you think back, he went 15th in the draft. I mean, talk to us about Cole.
Well, first of all, first time I saw Cole play, it was at the Brick Tournament in Edmonton. He was 10 years old, and he was special. He was a special player at that time, scoring big goals, doing the big things. He was a shorter player, smaller player too, but always scoring goals. And I have a son who's also born in 01, so we played against him. He used to go to different tournaments. Cole Caufield. He was always breaking your back. You know, the game it's 2-2. He scored the 3rd one. It's 3-2. You know what I mean? He was a goal scorer in the big moment. Then I remember him even at 15. He played at the end of the year for a national team at Nationals in Pittsburgh. U18. He got not called up, but he finished the season with that team. I think it was Team Wisconsin. I'm not sure. I'm watching the game, and again, overtime, who scores a goal? Cole Caufield. Cole Caufield scored goals. NTDP, same thing. Puts a smile on his face. He's always smiling when he scores that goal. These goals too. Cole Caufield is a goal scorer, someone who's not afraid to take a shot. He's got an amazing wrist shot. The way he pulls it, you saw that second goal in OT there against Toronto. I mean, he changed the lines off the post. I've seen that over and over again. Even the goal against Ottawa, he cuts across there, and he has the mindset to lift it up like over the pad real quick. I mean, it's a gift. He's got that gift. He knows where the goalie's at all time. That's what he has. And he's got a hard shot, and he's a hardworking player. So that's what Cole Caufield is. He loves the big moment. He wants the puck on his stick when it counts. And it's rare that you see Cole Caufield with 1 shot on goal or 2. He'll average. I mean, the NHL is different, but he puts pucks on nets, and when you put pucks on nets, and either it goes in or it creates rebounds and or AVOX. You know what I mean? So
yeah. Your time has been so generous. I probably have 3 more quick ones for you here. Okay, I won't keep you much longer, but when you were at that draft and you saw pick 8 and he's not picked, 9 he's not picked, 10 he's not picked, 11 he's not picked, 12 he's not picked, 13 he's not picked, 14 he's not picked. At that point, obviously he's sliding because of his size or lack thereof. What did you say to yourself when you saw teams pass on Cole Caufield because of his size?
Well, right away, I started saying to myself, someone's gonna get a hell of a deal. Someone's gonna get a hell of a deal. And I lived it with Cam Fowler with Anaheim. He was ranked 4th, and then the 5th pick, the 6th pick, and then he went 12th to Anaheim, and he made the team the following year. Cam Fowler is an outstanding defenseman, and I started feeling the same way with Cole. I mean, thought he like right around 8 or 9 or 10. Geez, but teams are picking it. It's not easy for teams to make these decisions at 18. Also, it's hard for us to go after young prospects when they're 15, 14 years old. It's harder on us, but it's hard at 18 to pick. Right, and that's why I keep saying that they should be a 19-year-old draft in the NHL. But anyway, that's an whole different subject. But yeah, I felt that way when I start seeing slipping a little bit. So someone's going to get a hell of a deal, and Montreal got him.
You know, there's a huge controversy right now in the province of Quebec. I'm not so sure if you're aware, but even the mayor of Montreal weighed in. Even the premier of Quebec weighed in. Last game, for the first time in the 112-year history of the Montreal Canadiens, they did not have a Quebec-born player in the lineup. And Premier Legault said, Jeff Molson et Marc Bergevin doivent être sensibles que les Québécois aiment ça avoir des Québécois. S'ils n'étaient pas bons, je dirais, je comprends, mais il y en a qui sont très bons.
Right. Right.
What do you think?
I think, well, first of all, the responsibilities of Jeff and Mark is to put the best team on the ice. I mean, that's the first and foremost. And I know that I believe that at talent égal, if they're both players pretty much the same, they'll probably favor the French Canadian players as they should. You know, Montreal's in Quebec, but from a performance standpoint, they have to analyze, and based on what players are at, I mean, they want to put the best team on the ice and draft the best players they can. So it's a lot of pressure. And I think sometimes, I mean, is it unfair? Listen, I mean, we have one team in Quebec, in the province of Quebec, and I think the French Canadians are very proud, as they should, of the Montreal Canadiens. And also we're proud of our heritage and our roots. And that's why we're voicing our opinions. I mean, I'm in California for 33 years, but I'm still, obviously, proud of my roots. So long story short, I do think that they're sensitive to that and they pay attention to that, but it's not always perfect.
And at the same time, there's only 60 Quebec-born players in the National Hockey League. There's 31 teams, and the Canadiens do have two of them, by the way, in Philippe Danault and Jonathan Drouin. They just both happen to be out of the lineup right now at the same time.
Exactly.
I don't know if I'm putting you in a bad position to answer this, but I'll ask it anyway. And if I am, I completely understand.
Okay.
Because Marc Bergevin's a personal friend of yours. It's been reported, right? You guys know each other way back, going back to junior hockey. His contract is up at the end of next season. There's a lot of talk about his future in Montreal. Is there anything you could tell us in terms of your dealings with him and the way he does his job?
Well, I think he's under a lot of pressure, and Montreal's in an easy market. I mean, they're probably, I'd say, a handful, maybe a little bit like 6 to 8 markets, like close to Montreal. A lot of pressure there. He's been there for 10 years. I mean, it's not for me to evaluate his work, but I can say that he's made good trades and he's made good decisions overall. And people want to see the team winning for sure. That's how you're judged. I mean, when you're coaching a GM, you're evaluated by your wins and losses. He's fair. He makes decisions. If you look at his track record, I mean, he's not afraid to pull a trigger. Usually doesn't sit too much. He doesn't procrastinate. When you're negotiating with him, and I don't speak on behalf of another club, another general manager, but I do observe that usually when he has something in mind, if he wants to upgrade his decor or his forward, he'll work the phones and he won't sit on a deal. If he thinks it's the right deal for the organization, he'll pull the trigger quick. Where some GMs, they'll take more time. Some of them will take months sometimes. So it's not an easy seat to have. He's been there for 10 years. And as a friend, I want him to be successful. But at the same time, when I sit with him and I'm negotiating a contract with him, I want what's best for my player. And we're clear with that. We're very clear with that. When he doesn't like always my calls with him. Sometimes they're great. Sometimes they're not fun. Sometimes, and he understands, and I respect his business acumen, but sometimes we have to, and I do have a lot of friends in the NHL. I know Mark very well, but geez, Blake, I represented Blake, Luke, he's the president of the, I can name so many general managers and coaches and friends but we have to, as representatives and as agents, we got to do what's right for our players, and that's important. It's important for us to be very, very clear.
In ending, agents have turned general manager in the past. It happened with Mark Barnett. It happened recently with Bill Zito. Your name comes up every now and then, and I'm not only talking about Montreal, but any market. Has it ever piqued your curiosity, a career change to go from agent to GM, albeit in the past, now, maybe in the future? Yes or no?
Oh, of course. I think if you're a good businessman, you always look at your options. Whether you're you run Amazon or FedEx or whatever, you have to look at your options in life. You have to look at that. You have to put goals for yourself. I mean, I love doing what I do. I love making a difference in players' lives. I love helping our young staff growing. We have a fantastic practice, and we have an amazing draft coming. Again, we have probably 7 to 9 kids ranked in the first round. Our next few drafts are looking very bright ahead of us. We're developing players. I enjoy doing what I'm doing. I mean, but I think as a person, you always have to look at getting better what you do and always exploring your options in order to keep your options open and continue to evaluate yourself and what makes you happy.
Okay, so now you open the door here. How interested in being a GM in terms of percentage, 1 to 3 years, 3 to 5 years?
Not really, honestly, Tony. It's not really. I'll put a timeline on it. It's not really in the cards. I'm focused in looking at continue to do what I'm doing. When I say options, things comes your way sometimes, and you don't expect it, and you have to evaluate when they come. But it's really not something I'm waiting for, I'm looking for, or not at all. Absolutely not.
It's the Sick Podcast, and the show was brought to you by Essentia. Check them out, myessentia.com/sickpod, and see why Essentia is the mattress of choice for many athletes, including over 25% of professional hockey players. Use code SICKPOD for a free pillow with your purchase. Essentia, beyond organic sleep. Special thanks to all the sponsors, the Sick Podcast, and especially special thanks to you, Pat Brisson. What a fun chat this was for me. I hope it was half as fun for you as it was for me.
It was great, Tony. I appreciate you having me. I appreciate it a lot. Love what you do. Keep doing what you do, and we keep the fans excited about our game. So you're very passionate, and I love your work. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Pat Brisson, merci beaucoup. The number 1 hockey agent in the world. And now, my new best friend, I hope. You can listen to us and watch us on all social media platforms, including Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at The Sick Podcast. Merci, Pat.
Merci, Tony.